So we've seen direct-to-consumer increase a lot in the last 5 years, and big FMCG brands are really trying to tap into that. Whether it's social selling or building customer relationships, social media is perfect for that. And we're going to see a lot of it because these FMCG brands are trying to stop their reliance on these big supermarkets. Also, launches of new products. So we found from our research that ubiquity amongst your target audience is really important, particularly for FMCG. And social is perfect because you can have higher frequency at a lower cost, unlike TV channels, which are much more expensive. We've seen also a boom in voice control devices. So what we want to happen here is that you become front of mind to the consumer, so that when people say, Alexa, buy me butter, they're saying, Alexa, buy me Lurpak butter. Another thing that's really important is communicating sustainability and purpose. Increasingly, that's becoming really important for consumers, and social is a great vehicle to communicate that. Finally, brand experiences. So they're social currency now, and you really need to make sure you're extending your reach on social. What's great about Collider is that we've got a history in experiential, which means we can marry these two, like we did for Manamasa and their Serve Spirit, Not Food campaign. So people will blame the change in the Facebook algorithm and the declining organic reach, but really it's just the fact that there is so much content out there. People scroll through 300 feet of content every day, 360 ads a day. So obviously, organic content isn't going to cut through that noise. You need to make sure that to get your brand awareness out there, you need to have a really strong social media strategy. A really good social media strategy is going to cut through that noise. So we recently conducted an extensive research into the best social media listening tool, and we found that Brandwatch was the best of the bunch. And ultimately, what social media listening can do for you is that you can find out the share of voice of your brand compared to their competitors. You can track campaign performance. You can see what conversations are happening about your brand and tailor your content accordingly. So social media listening is really important. Also important is brand identity. So making sure your tone of voice is really coming through on your social channels. And then also audience definition, so making sure you know who your audience is and how you're going to reach them. And that's kind of ending with paid social strategy. It's so important in this day of declined organic reach. You really need to make sure that you've got a strong social media strategy with paid that will reach the audience you're trying to find. So a lot of the time brands will just ignore some of the comments they get, whether it's complaints or questions, they'll just ignore it and they'll treat it as a broadcast channel. That's obviously not the way to approach social media. A Sprout research found that being responsive was actually one of the things that prompted purchase, more so than contests or being funny. So it's really important that you respond to these queries, and people don't want just an email, they want to actually resolve their query on the channel they're actually on. So FMCG is slightly different from other sectors. The transport sector, for example, many of them have 24/7 kind of social channel presence. And yes, you might not need that in FMCG. That doesn't mean, however, that you can relegate it to the intern. You do need a full-time presence of someone on social who is actually proactively responding to comments and also maybe finding conversations relevant to the brand and responding to them. I see this on a case-by-case basis. So if you're the kind of brand that's receiving a lot of mentions, they need immediate response, they need specialized response, you might need someone in the back end to help resolve that query, then yes, take it in-house. But for FMCG, that doesn't tend to be the case. And if you don't have the skill or the capacity to do it in-house, it makes a lot of sense for an agency like Collider to help out with that. So not repurposing content across different platforms isn't cost efficient, so you should definitely consider doing that. At the same time, you don't want a one-size-fits-all approach because you need to make sure that you're considering platform specificities. One of the pitfalls I see a lot is brands choosing influencers based on reach only. So what you need to consider is their audience, their engagement levels, and their skill. If you look at influencers from a reach-only perspective, it means that you might potentially be wasting a lot of budget. So you might be reaching people who are actually not interested in buying your product. You need to consider influencers in a collaborative way. Think of them as creators, because that way they'll actually demonstrate value for your product and it will seem much more authentic. What I'm seeing a lot of, and I really love seeing, is long-term partnerships with influencers. The thing that's really great about that is that you're then building a relationship not only with the influencer, but with the influencer's followers. And if they see you more regularly on that influencer channel, you'll be more front of mind, and also that relationship will seem so much more genuine. So I'm going to see a lot of small brands leading the way. These digital-first companies who really know what their consumers want and how to advertise to them. Big FMCG giants really have to look over their shoulder at these guys. Conversely, we did a piece of research recently, the Launch Intelligence, which showed that 87% of people recalled launches from well-known brands rather than newcomers. So there is the advantage there that big FMCG brands can see. Another thing we're really watching out for is user-generated content. So 40% of people are actually seeking out user-generated content before making a purchase, so it's clearly really important. And also it's quite a cheap way of producing content for your channels. Another thing we're seeing a rise of is e-commerce, because FMCG brands are trying to end their reliance on supermarkets. So we're seeing a lot of things like shopping on Amazon, on Facebook. We saw a partnership between Heineken and Deliveroo, so that's definitely on the rise. Another really important thing that we're going to see a lot of is brand values. So research has shown that actually brand values are more effective at converting people than actual product attributes. So it's really important that brands actually show their values on their social pages. A really good example of that is Dove. So they actually rarely show their products on their social page. What they do is talk about their values and they reflect what their customers want to see.